Welcome to the Heart of the Bear Factory. I'm Rob Johnson, and this is Pawsitive Impact, the show that talks about teddy bears and making teddy bears with a purpose. Joining me, as always, is the founder of the company, Jerry McLean, and Jimmy Banish, Chief Operating Officer. Welcome, gentlemen.
Pleasure.
All right, so we're here for episode number 4, and today we're talking about challenges, problems. I really like, one of the things I like about this platform, podcasting, is it's a longer form conversation. A lot of times when people discuss challenges in business, they talk in, it's almost like fortune cookie wisdom, right? It's like, don't spend more than you make, or, hire slow, fire fast, or like all these really quick things that are true in a general sense, but I like actually getting into examples of problems that people have had, how they solve them, because in those models, I think that's how people learn. So I thought it'd be good to dedicate an episode towards challenges, not only with the infrastructure of the business, but also with, acquiring products and testing products and things like that. So Jerry, I want to start with you. So you came from a business background before you started the Bear Factory. So that is an advantage to not being, 20 and just trying to figure it out and, having to learn, build the plane as it's flying, so to speak. I'm sure there was some of that, as there always is, but what are one or two of the challenges that you remember that stick out to you the most as you were getting things going here?
The biggest thing was supply chain. At that point, there really wasn't anybody around in the United States that was going to be able to produce the product. So in the other company that I was with, Panama Jack as a CEO, we had a great deal of foreign, what we'll call placement companies that would help us out with fulfillment. When I started this company, I was looking domestically. I wanted to make it a USA product, but what ended up happening is when you start really looking at the down and dirty of the dollars that it would take to manufacture something domestically, it really jumped out. Something that would cost $2 over in China, just to use a number, was $6 in the United States. And it was hard to find the kind of products, the different fabrics, the different things that you would need. All of it would have to be supplied in, out of China. So what I did is I started to utilize my connection points, for the global, distribution out of China from, my past company. I was able to really take that, move with it quickly. One of the funny stories was the first show that I ever did, the first trade show that we did down in Atlanta, Georgia. We went down there, we had our stuffing machines, we had another company's plush that we were just showing. We wrote a ton of orders, way into the 6 digits, well over $500,000 at that show. Didn't have any of the product. I could get stuffing machines, but I did not have product. And so that launched me into, oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? And I got on, the horn, and I started utilizing China in a real quick way, because at that point you could turn something in 45 days, 50 days, you could have it here in the United States. Now it's changed. Now some of the changes in the evolution of the business is China is slower. Costs are exorbitantly more expensive than they were before. So, the supply chain has changed. Wages are different over in China compared to what they used to be. And product availability is taking longer for the factory to be able to fulfill the product, the fabrics and things like that, to be able to manufacture a product.
So in a business like yours, how often do you evaluate the supply chain?
Oh, you're always constantly, weekly, daily. We're constantly looking at, okay, are we going to be supported big enough? If we land what we're looking to land, do we have enough penetration in the market over in China? How much bigger do we have to go? So we're constantly reevaluating that.
We're going through, looking at our shipping lanes, our ocean freight right now. Like, historically, we used to, way back in the day, when I first started full-time, like in 17, it was like, what, $4,000?
$3,500 to $4,000 to ship a 40-foot, high cube, which is the largest container that you could ship. It was $35,000, $4,000 door to door, which meant, from China to our door, delivered, through the rail, everything, customs clearance, everything.
And at the peak of 2020 or more in 2021, during all the supply chain crises, like our highest container hit, I think like over $30,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We had more product on the floor with shipping costs than the cost of the product.
And that's all we pay that all up front. So that's just, we had to fund that. Yeah.
So you get nothing loaded onto a container, in a container, unless it's paid. It does not ship, it does not move, it's paid for before it moves.
Yeah, and we'll do, 10 containers a month. That's $300,000 a month in container fees, that originally used to be,
$20,000.
Yeah. So one container.
Yeah. So, and now, so we had to pass that on to our customers. So that was definitely, what are we going to do? We can't go negative. We can't lose on everything that we're doing. So we had to pass just the cost of additional freight. And then as that changed, then you found out that the factories over in China were doubling and sometimes tripling their price for manufacturing. So, it was a dog-eat-dog world there for a while. And now we're back to it again. We're sitting here looking at, container prices came way down, probably $5,500, $6,000. Now they're back over $10,000 again, and they're going the opposite direction again.
Yeah, they're going up again. And, coming into like 2021, 2022, we had explosive growth. I think, we stayed in stock as long as we could. I mean, we ran out of stock on like 80% of the line at some point in 2022. But we had like increased production that came with quality control issues that we were running into. There's a new younger generation of workers coming into the field, into the force in China. We're always a huge supporter of, wage increases to support everyone throughout our whole supply chain. So, when a factory, has a price increase, we like to get a, breakdown of, all right, well, what exactly are we looking at? And, the recycled fabrics, you have to usually purchase about 2 to 3 times more per particular fabric type from a mill versus a virgin poly, because the recycled, it's just not as widely used. So if they're going to make it, we have to purchase, 2 to 3 times more. So there's always something. There's always a Canada rail strike or something with ocean freight. There's always, textile shortages. There's a bunch of factory mills that went out of business coming out of, 2020 and 2021. And these are all just my short, 6 years of like really being all in, hands deep in everything.
Sometimes people don't understand what it takes to make a stuffed animal. When you get a bolt of fabric at the mills in China, they are 3 meters or 12 feet wide, and they're sometimes 18 to 20 feet high. And they have a high-low that has a long point,
Like a
dowel, and that's what goes into the middle of it, and it'll literally go a football field long. That's how sometimes long when they go and they lay these out on a table, and then they stretch it, they put it in, they clip it down, and then they have a laser cutter that will go all the way down. So they'll map it out according to this piece and this piece and this piece. So they map it out to total efficiency, and it's a football field long. And that's one bolt of fabric for one particular animal. So if you look at this animal here, you've got 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 different colors. So that's 4 different bolts of fabric that you have to have.
And there could be, when we increased production, a couple years ago during the supply chain shortages, there's different fabric types. Like the temperature of the laser matters. Like we were starting to get product that was like singed because they were trying to increase production speed. It's like, what's this? Like that's a QC issue. Like there's just all these like little things that people don't pay attention to that we have to and want to pay attention to, just to make sure that the product is always to the quality that we want it to be. But it's not plug and go. And then you have forecasting on top of that you have to consider for everything. You know, I like to operate on like a 6 to 8 month schedule ahead. So, you know, we're already gonna be intaking our holiday items over the next 30 days right now. And that usually starts to ramp up for us in September, October. Well, I want to have it in house, you know, with some time to spare, because we ran into it where holiday items were showing up, you know, mid-November. Well, that's lost sales because we fuel and fill up the retail segment, you know, so we need to be in stock on holiday items well before the holiday season's even being thought about.
We're already into Valentine's 2025, so we have to now take a look at when does the Chinese New Year hit in regards to we need to get that product out of China. So all this has to be really looked at all the way down the line. If we don't get it out, China shuts down for about 25 to 30 days. Sometimes the shipping lanes shut down for that. Definitely the factories do. That being said, if we don't get it out, that means it doesn't ship until, call it March 1. If it doesn't ship from January to March, you know, that's a big, big dent in our ability to supply our customers. So we're already out there, you know, into next year.
Yeah, in 1 month of not shipping product, you know, that, you know, you're talking, you know, 250,000 to 500,000 units that's just not being shipped.
That's wild. I'm sitting here thinking about all of this. One thing that I keep thinking about as you guys are talking, in the last episode, number 3, you had mentioned if someone wants to just start a new, you know, if they have a book coming out and they want to, you know, develop a new character, like probably in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't think you know what you're asking for. Yeah. Like you want one character, and you guys are walking me through this entire process from, you know, sourcing the fabric to ensuring quality control's right to getting it landed on time. That is an extreme amount of logistics to figure out for one thing.
Yeah, and we've done custom plush for customers, and you know, the second round we can't get the fabrics that they need, and we've had to turn down business because it's just not going to be up to our standards. Well, they've gone and, you know, tried to find other lanes to get it done, and there's so many stories of people just getting burned trying to fulfill themselves. And I get calls where it's like, you know, we had a factory made us product and now we're going through customs. Like, what is this, you know, CPC report, and what is like these testing I need? And I'll usually take my time because I feel bad for these customers, like to try to help them and get their product like over the border. But there's times where it's just like, there's nothing we can do.
But we do something on the back end of that because now they know what it takes. They don't ever want to do it again. And so then they're usually a customer for life. You know, sometimes people have some ridiculous ideas that they're looking to do, and we might have a small issue. We'll call it an issue, or something that just maybe is not perfect, and they want it perfect. Well, then we eat it, and so we really have to pick and choose, you know, the kind of customer and the kind of product that we want to be involved with.
Yeah, a great example of challenges is we recently did a custom plush piece, and one of the tags that the customer wanted didn't get put on. So we have 3,600 units that went to them. It's missing like a very important tag for them. We had to pay to bring it back, you know, $800 out the window. We had that tag, you know, shipped over. Okay, well now how are we going to put it together? I think, you know, we bought sewing machines, we have thread now, we figured out what we got to do, and it's, you know, a blessing in disguise because we took challenge, turned it into opportunity where we're going to fix this, make it right, take care of everything associated with it, get it back to the customers so that they're happy. But now, we're going to be opening up a repair shop within our company, and any of the defects that we have off the floor, we used to just donate to like a charity and tell them to fix it. Well, we're going to fix them now. And we're just gonna, we have customers who do defect reports, for a whole year, and we'll have them ship, a pallet worth of defects back to us, and we used to donate those. Well, we're just gonna fix them,
When you look at millions and millions and millions of pieces on an annual basis, it starts to make sense.
Yeah, so I think it's taking the challenges and don't sweat the small stuff, but I think reducing your knee-jerk reaction when there's a problem, and like taking a breath rather than just getting all worked up about it, and just like sitting down, all right, what do we got to do to take care of this? I fortunately have Jerry that I can talk to, like, hey, this is going on, have you ever ran into a problem like this? And if he doesn't have a solution, we can usually put our heads together. And then we have Kia, who's amazing with problem solving as well. Like I always tell people, Jerry talks about, I always did the marketing. I sold promises to people, and Kia fulfills them. So she made sure that we came through on all these promises that we sell, because it's important, it matters.
As you're talking about, all these challenges that you've had over the years, it has reminded me that like the biggest developments I've ever made in my company did not come out of success, it came out of failure. Mm-hmm. Because then you're finding those areas that, the repair shops, you understand how to build a workflow for that can open up another lane of business and support more customers than what you had before. If everything is just a constant win, probably means you're not pushing yourself or challenging yourself enough.
I would like those wins.
I know. I'm not saying no wins. I'm just saying if it's 100% win.
And you have to be willing to be adaptable. Like we came out of lockdowns, and Kia and I had always wanted to go to a 4-day work week, and Jerry's like, no, there's no way that's ever going to happen. And we, opened up to 2 days a week, opened up to 3 days a week, opened up to 4 days a week, and just stopped. Well, since that time, it's the most efficient our company has ever been. Our employees are happier. They're happier because they have 3-day weekends. We get the job done. If we need to come in on a Friday for something, we make sure the job is always getting done. But having work-life balance, we took a problem and turned it into an opportunity. We had an employee recently leave in the back of the warehouse here. We tried to hire someone, just didn't work out, got rid of them after just a week and a half, because you just know if someone's going to work out. Yeah. The warehouse team came together and they said, hey, we can take on this individual's responsibilities that they were doing who left. We would like to ask you to consider taking their salary and dividing it amongst us. And I'm like, well, that's an interesting idea. And so I went and talked to Jerry. We put a program together that you get this amount starting now, in this month you get this amount, and as the year goes on, as long as we continue to hit projections and hit numbers and do what we got to do, and you guys prove yourself, I have zero problem with taking that salary and dividing it amongst you. Yeah. We've been doing it, and it's been working phenomenally for like 5 months now.
Well, the fear that you have is you give it to them all at one time right out of the gate. So you take that salary, you split it 4 or 5 times, all of a sudden they do really well in month 1, and all of a sudden then they decline in month 2. So that's why we went to a gradient, forward movement on it, and it worked out fine.
Yeah, but that was an obstacle, because just hiring costs money, it takes time, and now it's created an opportunity where I don't have to hire. I can pay our current staff more, and it's been like a amazing bonding experience for them.
Yes. Yeah, that's great. I want to move to talk about from the supply chain to the products that land, and if we cut to the wide shot here, if you're watching on the YouTube platform, we have a bunch of different looking foxes that look a little bit more similar as you go from left to right. Jimmy, tell me what everyone's looking at right now.
Yeah, because we're talking about obstacles and challenges and details specifically. I love keeping this set of sample progress. It takes us about 4 to 6 months to come up with an item because we're meticulous with, down to the minute details with things. So what I like about this example is, this was my, Finn the Fox was my first top 5 seller. So I was already like heavily invested into this, but this took about, I think like 7 months to get from point A to point B, where, I put together a couple of design concepts, said, I want to do a fox, blah, blah, blah. And this neon looking fellow, showed up in my inbox, and I brought him over because I actually liked the fabric on his ears, which we ended up using that for another item. So, we started off with this first round of sampling. The eyes looked pretty good, but I didn't like the body style, won't fit our clothing. The face wasn't quite right, the color was off, so...
Yeah, I'll slide these down to you so you can hold up and do a show and tell as we're going here.
Yeah, so he just, his legs weren't right with regards to fitting our clothing, and, so he's friendly and lives in my office, but, he kind of never went from there. But the next step, we, changed the fabric, went to our recycled polyester, started to look at more at the face, played around with the eyes a little bit, went away from those golden eyes for a minute. Needed a longer snout. This snout was, way too long. So we had to like dial it back. His smile was like a little wonky. But the body style was pretty good. I really liked the fabric, but he needed some modification. So, he got retired. And then went back to the golden eyes, changed up the paw pads because I was kind of interested on how that might look. The nose got, brought back a little bit. Jerry always taught me it's about the face. That's how kids identify with the plushies, is the way that they see the face. Yeah. So it's just got to be friendly. Like his smile was a little bit buried underneath, so you don't really see it. So, he kind of got retired early. And then we settled on, final Finn, where pads got updated, kept the eyes, the nose was great, moved the smile up. And he, like I said, he's my first top 5 seller, for the company. Has been in circulation for a couple of years. But this was very frustrating process as we were going through, and it took like a lot of time to work on it, and but it's very rewarding at the end of the day. So, that's why I'm really partial to Finn.
So that whole process from the neon Pokemon Fox to final Finn, that is 7 months roughly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So once you have the concept in mind, you're like, okay, so we have this one fox that's landed, now we want to update it. Where do you get the updated fox from, and how long does it take to get that first one back so you can start looking at it and putting hands on it?
He was like going on in a batch of probably 10 other items that we were working on, but we sit him in our photo booth, take shots from all over, compare it to existing styles, because we need to make sure that, like, the body's consistent, the arms are consistent, both for like fitting clothing, but then also, our nozzles on our stuffing machines are 3/4 of an inch. Like, we got to make sure that that can fit in legs and arms and things like that. And so there's just a lot of photos that take place, drop it in to like Illustrator, start, pointing out, typing up, modify this, 15% or 10 millimeters. Like, we'll get down to the very specifics. And then our sample makers go back and, we're working with them about, can we look at this material? Like, we have fabric swatches here that we'll take a look at. And all while you're doing this, you have to still consider price too, because if you use too many fabrics, that can push the price up. If the stitch count's higher, that can push the price up. So there's like a fine line between like what you want, like what's dreamed of in our heads, and then like what's actually practical, because you have the laser cutting, you have all these other things. So it's just, you want this, it's got to fit this price point. It has to be actually, duplicatable in mass with regards to like the down to the detail. Like, there's some items that I would love to bring to the line, like a pangolin. Pangolins have a ton of little spikes on their backs. There's just no way to manufacture that the way that we would want to, and in such to our quality terms, you know. And I would love to do pangolin. It's just not going to happen. So it can be frustrating, but very rewarding at the end of the day.
Oh, that's great. I think it's great to hear the process of how these are brought about, and the precision and technicalities, and how close to the details you guys look to getting each and every one of these looking like they do. And Jerry, when we talked, I think it was on the first episode, you said kids look at the face. You know, my daughter, every time she picks out a stuffed animal, the first thing she says is, "It looks so cute. It looks so happy," right? So that's anecdotal, but it's also spot on. I mean, you've seen it in the market for 25 years.
Well, we've also done, case studies. We would bring a bunch of kids, 20, 25 kids, ask them the questions. What do you like? What do you look at first? And you'll find that it's eyes and face and eyes, and then fabric, and then color. So it's a very straightforward business plan that we, go off of, and that is face first.
Fantastic. Well, guys, I certainly appreciate you walking me through the side of the business problems, which is not always the most fun thing to talk about. Jerry wants to talk about all the wins.
Yeah, Jerry likes wins.
Yeah, episode 5, we'll talk about all the wins.
Yes, perfect.
Very good. Well, I appreciate you both. Thank you for all of that. All right, everyone, that's going to wrap up this week's show. We certainly appreciate you watching. Tune in 2 weeks for another episode. Take care.